Well, again, great to see everybody. Thank you for your participation in that. And Denise, thank you so very much for being with us. Denise is the chair for the board for the Augustine Literacy Project of the Upstate. Her professional background includes telecommunications, working as a technical specialist and training for programs, a facilitator for training programs for AT&T and other client customers. She is a mother of two. She has taught Sunday school. She's been a Girl Scout leader. She's been a Cub Scout leader. And her bio tells us that the Augustine Literacy Project of the Upstate supports her motivation to make a difference one child at a time. So Denise, you have the heart of a Rotarian, so we're gonna have to work on that too. And but right now, what we'd love to do is learn more about the Augustine Literacy Project, and we are so pleased that you are with us. Welcome, and the floor is yours. I'm going to start sharing in just a moment as you start speaking.
Okay, well, thank you all for giving me this opportunity. I will start by saying, first of all, that I did walk over that bridge too. It's very cool. So seeing that picture, I have a picture in my bedroom of my husband and a couple walking over the Sydney Bridge. So it's a great experience. And if you are afraid of heights, I would not recommend that. So thank you, Julia, for letting me see that picture again. It was great. I have been involved with the Augustine Literacy Project. I trained in 2015. The reason that I got involved was because I love children, and I see the influence of what can be done with young children and what tools they need to equip themselves for a better life in the future. And I went to church with a friend of mine who was involved in the Augustine Literacy Project. And whenever she talked about tutoring young children in reading, she just lit up. And that's the kind of opportunity that I always wanted as a volunteer, something that made a difference, something that would light you up, something that would motivate you. So I decided to train in 2015 to become an Augustine literacy tutor. And basically our program provides all the skills and materials and needs that you need, whether you have a background in education, to work with a child who is behind in reading and give them the tools that they need to catch up to their peers and become a functional leader. We'll go to the first slide. So what we are committed to is providing caring professionally trained tutors for those families who cannot afford to pay. A child that comes to our program really is identified by their teacher, reading coach, a parent, someone in the school or an after-school program, and is identified as behind at least 1 year in their reading skills. We target children in kindergarten through the 3rd grade because, as you know, in South Carolina, we have a law that talks about testing and holding children back beyond the 3rd grade and their ability to read. We know that our method to coaching children at this age offers early at-risk children the difference between a productive and a positive future, because otherwise if they fall behind in those grade levels, they never reach the capacity to read to learn. In those years, it's developmental where they're learning to read. So we see this as a life-saving intervention. Early reading proficiency is really that important. And it is a pipeline. If you fall behind, and especially having gone through the pandemic, children have fallen further behind, even those with the means. A child in our program merely qualifies with that recommendation that they are a year behind, and also that they are on the free and reduced lunch program. We are a private tutoring service that provides the same skills and interaction with the child that someone of means can pay a private tutor to come to their homes or libraries and teach their child who has fallen behind. Next slide, please. So as you know, in Greenville County, as of 2022, South Carolina readiness in scoring in English language shows that 42% of third graders who were tested are not reading ready. That's a terrible percentage, and it follows along national results as well. And so interventions, as well as what the schools are doing, are really required. And it really goes deeper than just their ability to learn in school. These children have varied backgrounds and experiences and adverse childhood experiences that kind of are stumbling blocks to what they're learning in the school. So we at the Augustine Literacy Project try to teach the whole child from the point of where they are, not only behind in their reading, but where they are in their personal, their home life, their exposure to different cultural changes and just they're pretty much the poverty level. We're at the poverty level of most of these kids. Next slide. Without proper reading interventions, this is what generally happens statistically to our students. 74% who are poor readers in the third grade are poor readers in the ninth grade, which is a direct correlation to the dropout rate. And of course, 85% are juvenile offenders are functionally illiterate. And of course, this has become a statistic that is more and more clear, that many of our adult prisoners cannot read above the fourth grade level. So there are reading interventions, but they're costly. I mean, there's psychological education evaluations that take place to understand the reading blocks for children, which can be emotional. Some of them are dyslexic. I mean, some of them, but without any type of evaluation, these children just continue to go through school without getting the intervention that they need. You can if you have the means, you can send your child to a private school. Camperdown is a wonderful school for children with learning disabilities, but very costly. You could add a private tutor yourself for $55 to $75 an hour. And of course, then there are reading summer camps, but the cost to a family just for reading intervention could be $15,000 a year or more. Our organization was actually founded as a mercy mission of Redeemer Presbyterian Church back in 2006. We became a 501c3 in 2016. So they were a mercy mission for almost 10 years. I came to the organization just before it went to a 501c3. Since that time, we've given more than 12,000 lessons to over 425 students in the Greenville area. This was an entirely volunteer organization. We are completely a volunteer organization to date. But we realized that after the pandemic, if we were either to grow, we needed to have a staff member, someone who could cover the logistics that are necessary about placing a qualified tutor with a needy student at where the child is, mostly in schools and after school programs, some libraries. But that took a tremendous effort away from our leadership team. So we did take our valuable resources in the summer of 2021 and hired a part-time resource manager who is our only employee to date. Again, who we tutor primary low income first through third graders. We are branching out into kindergarten because we see even In today's environment, kindergartners are where you form sounds and letters. It's a good jumping off point as well. So we've expanded our target area to include kindergartners as well as first through third graders. But they do need to qualify for the free and reduced lunch program and be at least one grade level behind in reading as identified by a teacher, resource manager, reading coach, or after school program administrator. Our lessons are unique in that we follow the basis of the Orton-Gillingham program, and we go through which is a little bit different than what's currently being talked about in the media and in our schools about the whole language. We do it in an alternate way of hearing, saying, touching, seeing, writing, and reading, which also improves spelling. And our tutors are trained in a strict lesson plan, so that it is customized, but it is also meets the child individually where they struggle and building on their successes while introducing new concepts. So there is always a review, a new concept, and of course, we do that twice a week. So repetition, repetition, repetition is important in the learning process. Our tutors are definitely similar to Rotarians in they have a volunteer heart. They complete 70 hours of training and practicum on their own time. And we ask for a 2-year commitment, or usually it's 60 lessons, but that can take up to 2 years following the training on with one student. And of course, we have to complete child safety training and do a background check for each of our tutors to be admitted into most of the facilities that we use, the schools and after school programs. It costs us about $1,400 to equip a new tutor with the proper training materials. All the training materials that we purchase for each tutor, they are allowed to keep after they complete their 2-year commitment or 60 lesson commitment. We do ask trainees to contribute about $150 to offset the costs. So like I said, they have a volunteer heart and they're willing to put a portion of their resources and their money towards their goal to help a struggling reader. And we as an organization, our role is to not only pair the student with the qualified tutor, but we provide additional training support throughout. We have our own community, and in that we do appreciation events, social events. We supply any new updated training tools, learning aids. We have a Christmas event where we celebrate with each other, as well as an appreciation event, which was just completed actually in my home in April. And then we coordinate all the placements and communication. So the tutor really just shows up and starts training with the child immediately. They don't have to figure out where they're supposed to be, what time. They give us their schedule. We can always pair them with a needy child. So retirees, people with tight schedules, we can make a fit that works for our tutors as well as our students. We ask for support. We reach out in social media. How can we support and put more tutors? You can become a tutor. We have a training course class. We hold 2 per year. Our next one starts in August. We usually run them just before the semester. We usually run our fall appeal for donations in November of every year. And our best tutors come from word of mouth and talking about our program and talking to our tutors. That's how we have predominantly grown the program in volunteers, as well as attending the markets. We just completed a Saturday market as the booth with a cause where we got 21 folks signed up who are interested in becoming tutors, and we will be following up with them for the training class as well as their availability for a 60 lesson period. These are some of our kids at PMAC, which is an after-school program. Some of them are holding the books and the tools that they use to help them with their reading. We are proud that we provide a library of decodable books for each child that is something that they read themselves. While reading is great to a child, but it doesn't always teach them to read. So we provide them with books that they read to us. And once they read that as part of their lesson plan, then we gift that book back to them. And we encourage them to take it home and read it to their siblings, family members, or back to their classroom where they can do read alouds with their peers. This changes habits in the home where books and reading is not always prevalent in the students that we have. So they're very proud, and we're very proud of our library that we use to select books that allow these kids to succeed and read on their own. These are some of our community partners since becoming a 501c3. Of course, we're in the grant process, and we have been able to tell our story and enlist these fine partners in supporting the tutors that go out and give their time and making a difference in kids that might be left behind. Of course, that's just our QR code and more information. And of course, we're always available at that telephone number to speak with you individually. Just one more last shot of some of our kids from our after-school programs. We're at PMAC, we're at Pomel Academy, we're at Neighborhood Focus, and we're at Slater Hall, as well as 17 schools in Greenville County schools. And we're in 21 locations. We have some outreaching schools in the Clemson area, as well as Pendleton and Spartanburg. Okay, if you want to show the video and then any questions, I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
All right, we've got a couple of questions, but let me stop that share. We'll do the video and then we'll get to the questions.
That'd be great.
Let's see here. I know it's here. Just give you a second. Let's see. This is it here. Yes.
2 years ago, we had a kid that he was really struggling so much, but he had that desire to read, which was also hurting to the heart. But last week, I sat with him during reading time, and it was hard for me not to hold myself together and not to cry to see him not just pretending to read, but pointing to every word and it just coming out great. I just kept telling them how proud I was, because that's the growth that we're looking for. And I know it's because Augustine is on our team and he has awesome tutors that, motivate him to want to do better.
We are the only organization like this in our community. We work with students that would never be able to afford a private tutor. And so by giving of ourselves and our time and our knowledge, we're really changing those kids' lives. Early intervention is important because we know that skilled readers that build a good vocabulary and continue to read are able to read more and more and be able to read to learn. Students that miss that foundational piece in the beginning are always behind, and then they just fall farther and farther behind. So early intervention we see as the pathway to get kids on the right path to reading success.
For him to be able to receive that extra help to get him where he needs to be was just really a good incentive for us. It's very frustrating for him to not be able to pick up a piece of paper and read it. Some words, like he sees it one way on the paper, but he can't say the letters and put them together the way that they should be. So that's a big reason why I'm all for any tutoring help we can get for reading for him. Is just, we'll take it. He's always had the will to want to learn, but he's never really had the will to want to read because he couldn't do it. Since being in this program and having that extra help and knowing he has someone that actually cares if he can do it, has changed him to where not only is it affecting him to where he'll actually want to pick up a book and read it, that his grades are improving at school as well.
We know this approach works to teach reading, and we just try to meet them where they are. We're seeing all of them move from either a non-reader or at a frustration level to progressing or skilled for their grade, for being able to decode words. We're seeing 80% of them make those same kind of moves for spelling, which is huge because they reinforce each other, but it's much harder to spell than it is to read. We're just seeing great success on both of those test score wise. It's the confidence factor. It's the student that can pick up that book and, I can read that with you. You don't have to read it to them, or, they can take the book home and read it to their little brother or sister. When the light bulb goes on and all of a sudden they realize that they're a reader, and they understand why. I mean, when my student can tell me, I get this. This is like a puzzle and I can put it together. It's fantastic.
Educational equity is the social justice call of our times. And knowing that we're making an impact in trying to help set everybody up with equal footing, puts everybody on the path to an adequate education. There's the potential for kids to fall between the cracks. And so Augustine really tries to scoop those kids up and make sure they stay on the path.
Because it takes a village to help raise children and teach them and grow them. So having that extra help, it makes a difference. And so if we can help him now, then hopefully as he gets older, these things will last with him forever. He loves getting to see his tutor twice a week. Like he wishes she could come every day. He comes home and he talks about her all the time. He comes home, he says, Mom, I got 100 on my spelling test. Can you text my tutor and let her know? And I'm like, I will. So as long as he can keep doing it, we're gonna do it.
Hey.
Okay, I did see
Alright.
some questions. I'm not sure about typing them back, but we are not a part of a national program. We are actually a replication of successful programs from North Carolina. There are 13 replications. It was actually started in the Raleigh-Durham area, and there are other replications, but we are not part of any national program. And the other question about our other locations, we're in Anderson and Spartanburg County. We're at Arcadia Elementary. And in Anderson, we're at Mount Lebanon, Pendleton, Townville, and La France. And we have one location in Greenwood.
And the other question that came up was, are there ever any opportunities for virtual tutoring?
We did that. during the pandemic with our students that were shut out towards the end of that semester. And we did attempt that with our tutors in a learning session for all tutors, thinking that's the direction we were going to go in 2021. We do have one tutor that has kept that one student virtually, but most of our tutors did not find it helpful having been in the in-person training, and that's what they got into it, to have face-to-face with the children. And the techniques that we use, like we said, see it, feel it, the sensory, all the senses are being utilized in this training method. We haven't really promoted it or continue it. So we're back to in-person, and that seems to be the most successful for our students.
Denise, how many tutors do you have right now? So when you say that there's people in Spartanburg and in Greenwood, they're all still under the same umbrella company or group.
Yes.
And
yes.
so do you have a number for how many tutors you have right now?
Yeah, we sure do, because we
probably missed that. You probably said it in your program.
No, I did not. We end the 22-23 school year with 66 kids having been tutored by 61 tutors. Some of our tutors take more than one student, not very many, but some do, if we can coordinate their timeframes, that we can get the kids together back to back. So some of that is, we do have our upcoming training class. We generally have 12 as our maximum that our leadership is comfortable training at a time, but we are trying to expand that to 15, trying to nudge them to be a little more comfortable with more tutors. It's a big commitment, because it's 3 non-consecutive weekends, Friday night and all day Saturday. So we have 8 registered with 2 applications out. So we almost have a full class in August.
Well, that's great. That's great.
And do they do anything over the summer, or it's only through the school year?
No, we started summer programming with the after-school groups, nothing through the schools. But the after-school programs still have an academic element in their summer programming, and they invite us to participate with those kids if they are the same kids that come throughout the school year. It doesn't get the 60 lessons in the summer program. So usually it is a continuation for the kids we already have that are going through the summer program.
Right. Kind of keep them from losing anything before they go into the next year.
Yeah, like all of us, we lose something over the summer.
And do you guys get your referrals usually from the school saying, hey, this kid needs a tutor, can you find us one? Is pretty much like, are you able to meet the needs that the schools are telling you that there's a student? Or do you find that there's times where there's a wait list of students?
Oh, we have a wait list of students. There's no end. Some schools are completely Title I, and we don't have a problem getting qualified students. As you know, the volunteers, there are so many needs, especially in Greenville County.
Right.
Their volunteer efforts and where they want to spend their time and get the biggest impact. And like myself, what I want my volunteer hour to make a difference. And that is the message that all nonprofits and organizations are looking for. I want to make a difference if I'm going to get somebody to give of their generous time, because that's the most, that is a gift, someone's time.
Yeah.
So we have plenty of kids. We just need more tutors, and it's a huge commitment on our organization, really. But I can tell you our motto, tutor one child, change two lives, is an absolute truth, because I got into it just wanting to tutor kids, and now I'm the chair 7 years later. So, and it's as gratifying as ever, but you can't beat the one-on-one with the child. No matter what you're doing administratively, you cannot beat that 45 minutes twice a week with that child, because it will light you up for the week.
Denise,
Denise, go ahead.
I have a
Go ahead, Ken.
question. Yeah,
No, please, go ahead.
this is actually one of my favorite subjects, because I am the victim of not being able to read when I was a child. And it was because my brain processes things differently from a sight standpoint. I can remember images all day long, but the letters never meant anything to me. And it was painful for me to read anything. If somebody told me to read, I would do anything to get out of reading it when I was a kid. And I didn't do well in elementary school because of that, until I figured out that was the problem. But nobody had ever diagnosed that back in the old days. They didn't understand. I mean, it's ADHD to some extent, but it's brain processing. So I want to know if, in this day and age with computers and iPhones, I find that you can't exist without reading things on a phone. And so I'm curious about why no one has come up with an app, a fun app for kids to, in my case, it was nothing but pure repetition, as you say. My brain finally figured out what the letters meant, because I visualized the whole shape of the word, not the letters. And my wife is an elementary school teacher, and she taught me phonics when I was in my 20s. So I'm delighted that you're doing this program, and I just wish that the education system put reading at the top of the list, that no one should be graduating from school without having reading comprehensiveness and competency. So thank you for what you're doing.
Again, Ken, you get us, that's for sure. You get us with that story. That we have lots of kids with your story still today.
Wow.
Denise, once you start tutoring a child, how do you know, how do you know when the child is, is it the tutoring just automatically end at a certain time, or is there a way to chart the progression?
It's a good question. No, like any other organization, we have to show results and impact on what we're doing. You can't just say it's happening, even though we do not have the ability to follow the child beyond us catching them back up to grade level and beyond third grade. We just don't have that ability. However, when we get a child, we do a pre-assessment that not only assists us in finding what their strengths and what they know, so we meet them where they are in letter recognition, sound recognition, but it also gives us a point that we can track their progress at the end of the 60 lessons. Then we post-test them for their results, and then we produce that for an impact report for our grant donors, as well as to our board, that we show that, yeah, we are making an impact. We have caught them up in letter recognition, just like the things that Ken talked about: letter recognition, sounds, decoding words, reading independently.
So
It's
is that all part of the
it's all part of the reading rope.
Yeah.
Phenomenal awareness, single word decoding, and then of course spelling is important. So
Mhm.
And then we
Okay, good.
reproduce that we're post-testing kids now, obviously, at the end of the semester. So we'll be producing our input report for this school year, probably in August, because we'll have some kids still in the summer program that we won't post-test, and we just make it, it's just good for the year until we start again.
Okay, good. All right,
Denise,
thank you.
what's the average when someone goes through the training with you, that people generally stay with the program as a tutor, like a couple
On
years?
the 60 lessons, pretty good. Yeah, I mean, but life changes, life changes. Usually people don't leave our program because they've achieved their commitment. They leave because their life changes. They have obligations with family members, or I had to stop tutoring, but I stayed involved in the program because I had to take care of my mom, and that made her priorities and schedule a conflict, but I stayed in the program. I've recently lost my mom, so I'm going back to tutoring in the fall. So we have some that come and go, and some that move away, and but we rarely lose them without a feeling of regret that their life has changed, and they're leaving, a child without a tutor. So our attrition rate, if I had to put a percentage of it, I mean, we try to train 24 tutors a year, and we lost almost half, though I will say pandemic almost was
Right.
to our detriment, because people get out of the habit. They've got new things that have happened in their lives. They can't come back to it. Anyway, we lost half of our tutors in 2020. That's why we got the employee in 2021. So we've built back up, and now we're trying to train 24 a year. And I would say we lose maybe 5.
Right.
So we're building back up.
Yeah.
We're getting back up to where we were before pandemic.
Yeah.
Well, Denise, this has been a phenomenal program. It's very eye-opening to hear, particularly about how impactful the one-on-one tutoring can be. As you know, Rotary, particularly the district that covers the western part of South Carolina, is really interested in what we can do for literacy. We've got a lot of clubs who have various projects all over the state. And so getting the word out about your tutors is something we can at least help with from the standpoint of getting into our district newsletter and letting people know that that volunteer opportunity exists there in the upstate in particular. So thank you so much for,
Thank you.
just all of that. And if you'll stick with us for just one more second as we end our meeting, what we like to do is part of what our club has done for the past year or so to say thank you to our speakers. Since we are virtual and we cannot give you a mug or something like that, what we would like to do is donate a book to the Little Free Library, and
Thank
we'll put that in
you.
recognition of you for your passion. This book is called They Saw a Cat, and it's a Caldecott Medal winner book. It was a New York Times bestseller. It's written and illustrated by Brendan Wenzel. But the unique part about this book is something that you've helped us with today, and that's perspective. This book starts off, the cat walked through the world with its whiskers, ears, and paws, and the child saw a cat, and the dog saw a cat. So the child and the dog probably didn't see the same cat or see it in the same way. And you've helped us see literacy in a way from a child's perspective as well as from a tutor's perspective. So thank you very much for that
Well,
today.
thank you. That's going to be wonderful.
So thank you.